What's up, everyone? So I finally got some time to do Q Singularis, and I usually do the Abyss on the last day. It's been like that since DRXC. For the Infinity Abyss, I sometimes did it on the first day, like half of it, and then I did the other half. But I didn't really like the Infinity Abyss because of how taxing it was. You had to make sure you had enough stealths, and then you had to go back every half an hour when it's time to start being in stealth mode. I couldn't really keep up. Sometimes I wasn't even in Red Lotus, and so when the DRXC came out, I was really grateful about that because if you had a half decent score, you could just stay maybe in like rank 5 or something like that, and then, you wouldn't have to worry too much about it. And so now we have Q Singularis, which is a little bit of the Infinity Abyss and a little bit of the DRXC, but scoring wise, it's still like the DRXC, and I still appreciate that. Maybe not everyone would like that because some people would be struggling with the boss's score, and for me, I can comfortably stay in Red Lotus with the gear that I have, so I appreciate it, but I do not usually aim for Myriad because, it's pretty time consuming. Sometimes maybe I do not have the gear to move up as well, and so I just stay comfortably in Red Lotus, which is good because I constantly have like, I think it's 420 crystals, and I'm happy about that. Anyway, back to Q Singularis. So I have done a bit of it in the Chinese server, but my account there is only level 45, so I'm only around like Sinful or Agony, and I only have one Valkyrie at S rank, and that's Seele, so I can't really do much there. Anyway, back to it. We basically use these quantum vibrations or ultimate evasions, and we charge up the Evadian. It's really reminiscent of the old Infinity Abyss where we had like Gluttony and Pride, where we had those extra skills, like we could ignite enemies to get an additional 50% elemental damage, and we could like do 100% additional damage to enemies that are airborne, something like that, but even more extreme, which is really cool because that's how games progress, right? You can't like keep doing stuff the same old way and expect everything to be the way it was before. So, Honkai has been progressing really well. Personally, I really like where they're taking the game, and yeah, every game has to move somewhere. So, they have some really weird skills. Like, in the Chinese server, I did this one where it turned me into stealth mode. Like, when Seele does her ultimate evasion, and you have these shadows following you. I can't remember the bonus for that one, but it was really funny because by now, I mean, you can see I'm the last person on the list, so everyone should already have done Q Singularis and have used the Evadian. So there are some Evadians where the moment you use them, it's like a nuclear bomb. And I was expecting that, and the moment I hit it, I just turned stealth, and it was like, where's my bomb? Where's my attack? And so now I've learned to read before entering, and so this one says Elemental Storm upon trigger. Well, that's pretty unfortunate because I do want to use Seele, and since I did her supply recently, I just want to like show her in Q Singularis. So I'm not going to. Oh, but it deals massive physical damage, and then we have the fire one, of course. I've been seeing people do the runs for the last boss already, so I kind of know what to expect from that. I'm not expecting to promote, but we'll see about that. And anyway, this one does deal physical damage. They take more physical damage. Okay. And are weakened. Oh, well, that's convenient. But yeah, Elemental Storm not gonna be able to make use of that. Well, too bad. But it's the early stages, so I don't think I run into much difficulty anyway. So she's voiced by Nakahara Mai, who did the voice of Tokiha Mai from My Hime, or, more recently, Juvia from Fairy Tail, and of course many others. So anyway, Seele for me is now at S rank, with a maxed out Undine's Tail and DRX set. So I'm gonna bring Snowy Sniper, probably with Plan C, which is Gustav, and of course, Bronya Sloth. That's the only beast stigma that people bring with Snowy Sniper, and I don't think I'm gonna bring Vikrant because it has a 30-second cooldown, not ideal. So I'm just gonna stick to Raider Missiles because it does not have a casting animation as well. It'd be better if I had Beethoven T. I do have Beethoven M and B, but I do not have T, so I can't pair like two Beethovens with Bronya Sloth. and Snowy Sniper really needs Bronya Sloth. Alright, here we go. So I brought Saloon's Elegy as well, so... Well, look at that attack. She's already, like, trying to kill them. That's pretty cool. Let's see if we can... She attacks really rapidly, like, in comparison to Blood Embrace. Or, you know, maybe it's just the difference between an S rank and an A rank elf. So I do appreciate that. She is probably gonna be really useful here, which is one of the reasons why I got her, probably. And so, going right in with the... Yeah, not expecting too much out of first stages, that's why I wasn't really concerned about the Evadian, which is great. So we just step on those beacons and we go right to the next stage, and there's this 4-skip countdown which is taken from the Infinity Abyss, and I am going to have a lot of problems taking this down. So ideally you would need a shield breaker to like force Doom out of this form. Well, you know, it still works, at least I could freeze her. And if I could get into my ulti, like my burst mode, that would be really helpful. But, well, Saloon's Elegy is really doing her job, which I really appreciate. Well worth the 28,000 crystals. Actually, that's debatable. Anyway, yeah, as you can see, this isn't the ideal set. I will put a link in the description for a video of a much better player than I am. And you guys can go check out like the extent of how strong an S rank Seele is, just at S rank, not even like double S or triple S, in a situation where you have proper equipment, where you have the right support, and where you actually know what you're doing. Because these players, they're a lot more technical, they understand everything that's being put into the team combination, down to how much damage they should be expecting even before they go into the fight. And they would do really well if they're like completely F2P, because they know how to maximize and optimize all the parts that are available to them. And so if you combine that with the equipment that they have right now, that makes them really strong players. I used to be really competitive, but for me now it's like, when I play these games, I just really want the enjoyment out of it. And that's what really drew me to Honkai in the first place. I was really attracted to the Elegy of the Wind challenge. I think I've said this before, but you know, developers, they don't usually dare to put in these kinds of Dante must die challenges because they're afraid that their player base would not be happy about the difficulty level, and they just whine like most entitled players do. And so it's really hard to want to give your players a challenge and still have to please players who are not good at any game that they play. And so since they really committed and like gave us a challenge like that, it was really nice, and it gave me a lot of faith in the game, and that's why I'm all in, even up till now. So, I mean, we don't always see those challenges, and I understand why. It's hard to keep it challenging, honestly, because you have to pit like the right Valkyrie against the right boss, and sometimes the bosses, they're not as challenging as they should be, and so they threw in stuff like the End of Anti-Entropy, where they have Bronya coming out and basically going crazy on you, even though she's not doing damage, but she is so destructive in another way. So it's nice to see them put an effort to try and keep things fresh. You know, I played other games where they just keep repeating events, and it's you just get so sick of it because the same event comes out and they're like, oh, we want to give everyone a fair chance to get access to all these kind of equipment that you can farm from these events, but the message that they're really sending is just that, you know, we're really dry on ideas and there's nothing more we can offer you, and that's why we're just repeating everything. So I really appreciate a game that is just constantly moving forward, constantly just giving us new events and doesn't repeat events and it gets really old. If you're like really committed to a game and you go all in when an event comes out, if it gets repeated, you really lose a lot of motivation to really want to try and farm it again. And I know this because I've played like so many other games, and for the ones that really don't repeat the same event over and over and over again, those are the ones that really just know how to move forward. And I will be doing a video to cover like most of the mobile games that I'm playing right now, or some of them that I used to play and dropped, and then I'll be explaining more on that. But anyway, back to Q Singularis, because that's what the video is all about. Actually, this part of the video is also in Seele. So as you can see, I do know that her charge attack does charge SP faster. I'm just like relying on Direct B to see how quickly it charges, like without any other assistance, and it actually charges pretty quickly. Also, regarding the equipment, I did see a comment on my previous video. Someone said that Zoro TNM with Direct B is actually better. So here's what I know about each of them. For both combinations, the B slot provides 20% physical damage and 1.5 SP per second for 10 seconds. For Zoro, we get a 20% total damage multiplier and 40% crit damage, and when we do an ultimate evasion, we get an additional 20% total damage multiplier and 15% crit rate and 3 SP. So 3 SP per evasion, right? There's also the 2-set skill that activates every 10 seconds we're on the field, but it's a little hard to use because it's like you have to be on the field for 10 seconds. If you're on the field for like 8 seconds and you switch out and you come back, you have to be on the field for 10 seconds again. And that's one of the parts of Zoro that I don't like to use in a prolonged fight. Also, that skill has to line up with your ultimate evasion, otherwise you're pretty much wasting it. But that's just my personal opinion on that one. Maybe you can utilize it better than I do, I'm not too sure. But for Dirac, we get a 10% crit rate and an additional 10% crit rate on entry for 9 seconds. Basically, all 3 parts have a buff that has to be triggered, and when 2 of them are active, we get 35% physical damage, and it extends the buffs to 14 seconds, so we get more SP regeneration and crit rate for a longer period of time. Then we have the M part, which makes a lot of difference because it's basically dormant until Seele uses her ultimate. Upon using her ultimate, a charge attack for the first time will activate all 3 buffs, and so they will get the time extension to 14 seconds as well. We can of course renew them, but the ultimate has a maximum duration of 18 seconds, so we're pretty much covered throughout. So why are these buffs so important? Well, the M part provides a 26% damage multiplier to burst modes and burst attacks. So the first part of Seele's ultimate is a burst attack, and after she finishes that attack, she is in burst mode. So if we cast her ultimate while we have 2 buffs active, that's 35% physical damage and 26% total damage multiplier, and then we get 1.5% total damage multiplier per second for 9 seconds, but of course it's extended to 14 seconds, so that means it totals to 21% total damage multiplier, and if you add that to the initial 26%, that is 47% at its peak. So that's already close to 100% additional damage, but on top of that, Dirac's 3-set ability can constantly reapply the impaired debuff on enemies, lowering their defense by 40%, which by itself is already strong, but Seele has an innate passive where she gains another 40% total damage multiplier on impaired enemies. So 40% total damage is the maximum amount for Zoro's combination, and that's if you keep the 2-set passive up. And we might have a slight burst in damage at the start of Seele's ultimate skill if we have a support Valkyrie that also applies Impair, but no Impair debuff can last for 18 seconds. So when played properly, apparently unlike how I'm playing her, but she can actually charge enough SP even before the ultimate skill has finished its cooldown, and that goes for both Zoro with Dirac or Dirac full. So in short, if we remove the 40% total damage multiplier and 20% physical damage from each combination, Zoro is left with 40% critical damage and 15% crit rate if you activate its passive, against Dirac's 35% physical damage, 26% total damage multiplier plus 1.5 per second, and the constant reapplication of a minus 40% defense impaired debuff. I can't even believe that I remember all that. I mean, I said I'm not really a technical player, but here I am remembering all these kind of stuff. Well, that's what happens when a new Valkyrie comes out, and I read about it before actually using it. Usually I use them before reading, but this time it was like I had a shortage of coins, and so I took a while to max Seele, and like before she was maxed, I didn't really bring her out on any missions or anything like that, and that is why I was just like reading to kind of get a grip on what I would expect out of her. So anyway, as you can see on the screen right now, she is up against Parvati, and I use the Snowy Sniper ultimate because I've been told that as long as the ultimate hits someone, the buff is applied. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I was too lazy to go back to the menu to change anything, so here we are with Valkyrie that's supposed to take down large amounts of enemies, taking down one huge boss. And, well, I mean, she's been doing pretty well, but this is quite a low disturbance. Is that what we call it? Disturbance? Or, I can't remember what we call it in Q Singularis, and you gotta verify me on that one because this is the first time we are getting Q Singularis. But, you know, it's only 85, and so it's not really a tough boss, but she did pretty well. I'm probably gonna have to change my team from here on because, you know, I'm not optimizing my support. I don't have Beethoven, and I'm not playing Seele exceptionally well, so we'll see about that. Also, the Evadian does not favor physical damage at all. Well, that was quite a bit of lag. I guess they do have a lot of stuff to load in Q Singularis, but I do appreciate how fast this is moving. It's like the Infinity Abyss, but you don't have to like keep going to the menu and then... Wait, did we have to keep going to the menu? Oh no, we had to keep loading per round, I think. It did take a bit of loading time, not too long, maybe it's because my device is fast, but, you know, it was a little disruptive. And for this one, it's like every 4 rounds we get one loading, not loading screen, like one menu screen that's like, oh, next area. So I'm pretty much okay with that. I think it's a really good move, a really good step up from the previous versions of the Infinity Abyss. But of course, they're gonna throw in new stuff, like this crap here, which a lot of people dislike. Well, if you use elemental damage on it, there's no problem with it, but of course, I am trying to use Seele here, and failing pretty badly. Whoa, that's cutting it pretty close. Okay, I'm not too sure if I'll be able to switch her back out, if I can force a HP pack out with the Celestial Hymn. I'm not too sure if I'm gonna be able to do that. Maybe with the help of the Evadian. I think if I like pull everyone together, use the Evadian and use Saloon's Elegy, I might be able to force some of them to... Oh wait. Oh, so I've regenerated a bit of HP. How did I do that again? Oh, probably the Cullen Hymn passive? I don't know. But anyway, Seele is back in action for a while. She doesn't have a lot of HP left, so I have to make the best out of this, but it didn't work out. I didn't do her charge attack because I was so focused on trying to get her weapon active so that I could extend. Alright, anyway, mistakes were made. We'll be right back. So I guess that's pretty much it for Seele. I have decided to make use of the Fire Evadian, and so I've changed to a fire team. I might do better with Vermilion Knight as the DPS instead of Flame Sakitama, but I just want to try her out. So I do have Phoenix as well. Too bad I don't have the Evadian up, otherwise that might have taken out a few of my opponents, but here comes Flame Sakitama. So I don't have Flame Sakitama at triple S, she's still at double S because I was too lazy to farm for her, and now I am facing the consequences of that. She is gonna be necessary for this round of Q Singularis' final boss, and not having her at triple S means I lose out a lot on stats, base stats, attack. I will also not have access to her passive, which will deal additional elemental damage with her basic attacks. But I think in this case, the more important one will be the base stats, and it's gonna cost me a lot because the last boss for this Q Singularis round, as we saw earlier, is gonna be Asaka. So I'm gonna have problems breaking the arm, and my ultimate damage is also gonna fall short. So I'm not gonna be able to promote to Myriad, but it's okay because I usually don't. But I am still going to try harder and see if I can get a good score out of it. Alright, that's the damage that we want. So, for a creature elemental damage dealer, I usually rely on the Argent Knight, which I really like to use, even though she doesn't have an ultimate evasion that activates a time fracture. But, you know, aside from that, she is actually really strong, and her ability to place enemies in an ice cell is, you know, the strongest, like, disabling debuff ever, because they just get stuck no matter what. Even if the boss can't get frozen, they can get stuck in an ice cell, which is cool. And so, yeah, I really like using her, but we do have the Fire Evadian, and that's why I went to Flame Sakitama instead. So unfortunately, I did not have the foresight of, or rather I did. I did understand that I had to farm her, but I don't know, I dropped the ball on that one. And my fragments are currently at like 200 over 600, so I'm gonna need 400 more. Fortunately, we can now use gold pins to buy 30 fragments per week, and, you know, plus I might just use the witch orbs, but I'm trying to save them because, you know, in case a fragment deal comes out like how Rosalia had one, I would be ready for it. But I might just spend it on Flame Sakitama fragments, not too sure yet. Alright, I might have used the Evadian a little too early, but it's okay. Don't have to rely on it. Anyway, so the Soul Link here worked a lot differently from how it did in the DRXC. Over here, it makes them share the same HP bar, so if you deal damage to one of them, you're dealing decent damage, like normal damage you would deal to any monster. But if you deal damage to all three of them at the same time, you're basically dealing 3 times the damage. So if you have a Valkyrie that does have a wide area skill and does not have a type disadvantage, someone like Seele, who is of course Quantum type, or, you know, the Hirscher of the Void, who basically does not have much of a type disadvantage either. So they will do really well. Otherwise, if you have an Attractor, you can pull all of them together and deal damage to all 3 at the same time. That will work too. And so we are now against the first Quantum type enemy, the Void Hellion. It is, well, they do change up the attack patterns, and it is not affected by any time slow, time fracture. So, wow, that is a lot of damage. Whoops. Mistakes were made again. Okay, I'm just gonna come back real quickly. Alright, we're back. So before I was so rudely interrupted by this Void Hellion, also, you know, by my lack of skill, but anyway, so before I was saying that, you know, it's the first Void enemy, they do change up the attack patterns, they do these like weird teleporting stuff, as you saw earlier, and they are not affected by time slow or time fracture, so you can't trigger time slow and time fracture QTEs while they're in this form, but they will later change to the unknown state, which is like another type, and wait a minute, I'm not falling for that again. So, alright, so this state, once they're in this state, they are actually affected by time fracture, and they are also weak against Quantum type, so if you have Seele, she will do additional damage to them, but they will also be doing additional damage to her. But, you know, typically because I've done, like, the Chinese server, some of the missions in the Chinese server, and also, you know, if you've played Chapter 11, you would have met up with a few of these Quantum enemies. They do change up the attack pattern when they're an unknown type, but they don't seem to be as destructive as they are as a Quantum type. So having Seele right now, or, you know, future Quantum Valkyries, whoever they will be really beneficial because they will be useful against this. So it will be really interesting to see unknown type Valkyries as well. Not too sure how the story is gonna introduce them, but it's gonna be fun. Also, did you see that? It wasn't even like super close, but I managed to activate the ultimate evasion, so that could be really dangerous. And, you know, it doesn't physically look like they're there, but the attack has already reached, so that is kind of weird. But I guess that's the Quantum type difficulty that is being introduced. So as you can see, now I can activate Phantom Iron's QTE, which is Time Fracture activated. So yeah, that was pretty much what I was saying. In Unknown State, they are affected by Time Fracture and Time Slows, but in the Quantum State, they are not. Oh darn it, I missed that one. Would have been nice to activate the Evadian, but I didn't think it would have brought me there. I think I would need one more ultimate evasion anyway. So, yeah, that wasn't too impactful. And we are going to finish the fight right now. Okay, so 3/5, so I guess that means one more to the... Oh, it's only Higokumaru. So after Hellmaru, then there'll be another 5 stages, and then we'll get to Asaka, who's the last boss, and that is for 20. Okay, I might have to change my team here. 2 of them are mechs, and it's probably not gonna work in my favor because my main DPS is currently a creature unit, so I have to focus on that one Honkai beast over there. And my Phoenix isn't actually geared to be dealing damage. I actually have TNM parts from the Musician set and Schrödinger Band B for faster charging. But okay, what I'm gonna try to do is to use the wolf from Phantom Iron to kind of pull them together, and that should give me the advantage. I should be able to take these 3 down. Yep. Alright, cool. Come on. Alright, we're done here. Is there any more? Alright, there's gonna be one more batch. Or maybe 2 more, I don't know. Alright, so for type, it doesn't look too bad, but the bleeding meter is at level 2 right now, and Flame Sakutama, as a main DPS, does not have any resistance to indirect damage, so she's gonna be taking full damage from the bleeding, which is gonna be really tough. But their HP is low right now, so if this is the last batch of this wave, I should be able to move forward. But if it's not, I think the bleeding's gonna get me, and I'm probably gonna have to change my team. Okay, so we now have to deal with Void Taurus, and I think I'm pretty much not gonna make it through this one, but we're gonna try anyway, and if I don't, I might change... I don't know, I might just stick to Fire and go with Vermilion Knight, or I might change to the Herrscher of the Void, who is probably gonna get me all the way to the last boss of this round of Q Singularis, so we'll find out soon. Okay, we're not gonna see much from Phoenix unless we get a HP pack, and it doesn't seem like I'm gonna get a HP pack, so it doesn't seem like I am going to be able to get past this stage, but I'm still gonna try. Well, that didn't pull them together? Okay, this is gonna be really tough. Yeah, probably not gonna make it. The Evadian didn't really do too much damage either, and the bleeding is getting to me already. And I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm just gonna keep the same team, just gonna place Vermilion Knight as the leader, and we should be good. Oh, what a bad evasion. Okay, but we're gonna be able to do this a lot faster than I did before. Oh, the bleeding's already at level 1.5? Wow. So we start off with that kind of bleeding? How does that work? I didn't notice that earlier, so it seems like I'm completely new to that concept. But anyway, the Vermilion Knight does have resistance to indirect damage, so the bleeding wouldn't get her as badly as it was getting Flame Sakutama, and so I would definitely be able to make it through. Whoops, I did that evasion to do an animation cancel and failed to dodge the quantum vibration. But anyway, all's good. We're just like 2 evasions away from that. I don't think I will need it for these guys. Because one of them is weak against mech, and the other is a mech, so it's neutral. And then the Void Hellion is a quantum type, which is neutral to the Vermilion Knight's type as well. You know what? I'm gonna use it anyway. Yeah, face the burn from the Harsher of Fire. Yeah, so if you guys didn't notice, like in chapter 9 or 10, I can't remember which one it was for the Vermilion Knight, but they did say that it is a God'sbane battlesuit that was built off the power of the Harsher of Fire. And so I don't think it's like with the Harsher core, but at some point they had the Harsher core and they extracted some power from it, and so that's how the battlesuit was made. And so there's a lot of rumors of like Himiko's whereabouts, and that, you know, that we already have the Harsher of the Void in Kiana, and then now Bronya is getting the Harsher of Reason, and Mei has the 3rd Harsher, so at some point maybe she will decide to embrace her Harsher powers, and then we will get a trio of the main characters with their Harsher forms. And so some people are like anticipating or just speculating that the Harsher of Fire's powers will manifest in Himiko, and that she will come back as a Harsher, which will be great. I mean, I'm totally all for it, but, you know, it might be a little far-fetched, so we just have to wait and see. Alright, so I decided to change my team to a better equipped team against Hikokumaru, and I'm going with my really just commonly used, I mean, not commonly used by other people, but commonly used by myself, Celestial Hymn to Umbral Rose QTE, and then to the Harsher of the Void. And I'm gonna change my elf to Blood Embrace because she breaks shields better than Saloon's Elegy. So if you saw my previous video on the DRXC, I actually use this team against bosses. It works pretty well because the support equipment on Umbral Rose is actually also combat equipment, so in case I need her as a secondary DPS, she can actually rise up to the occasion and, you know, help me deal some damage to bosses. This team isn't great against mobs. It's good against single bosses, and, you know, Umbral Rose does contribute a little bit to the shield breaking, which I really like, but she isn't the optimal support Valkyrie that you can bring. Of course, there are a lot of options, and this happens to be one of my options because of the easy activation of the QTE. Yeah, so it doesn't work well against like huge amounts of enemies, but it could work well against the Soul Link in Q Singularis, given that, you know, they share the same amount of HP, and then you can use Celestial Hymn to pull them all together, and then use, yeah, the normal, like, switch in, like how you do on bosses, but then all 3 of the opponents will be taking damage. That will be pretty cool. But other than that, you know, it's usually just an anti-bossing team, and it's not even the greatest team, but I feel really comfortable with it, so I always go with it. So if you guys have noticed, usually on my first playthrough of a new game mode, I leave the background music on, but the background music for Q Singularis hasn't been great. I mean, not to be disrespectful to the composer or anything, but it's just really mellow. It's not even like a combat kind of music, so in future I'm just gonna use a different kind of background music. So in case you hear it, it's just because I just play without the background music and then I put something in behind it. And also, when I'm playing off camera, I usually like, wait, hang on, this is cutting it pretty close. Alright, Umbral Rose is gonna finish it off. Whew, that was pretty close. Okay, so usually when I'm playing off camera, I turn off the background music and play some other background music. So for me right now, my favorite background music comes from the Nier Automata original soundtrack. That is incredible. You can play it from YouTube if you didn't buy the soundtrack, but I'm a huge fan of original soundtracks from games and movies, so I love to buy them. I started with like Final Fantasy 7 and 8, and I love collecting them. Sometimes you buy like, oh wait, what's that? Did I hit the button? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, they sometimes they come with packs. Like some games, if you buy like the deluxe pack or the platinum pack or whatever pack they come with, they do come with the original soundtrack, and they are usually really worth, like, it's really good value for money, because if you buy the soundtrack by itself, you're probably paying a lot more. And these soundtracks are really expensive, but if you do love these composers, you know, it's nice to be able to support them and just pay for their work. So one of my favorites was Uematsu Nobu, who everyone would know was the composer for Final Fantasy. He then broke off from Square Enix and established his own company, and so they have to hire him as a third-party contractor. And so right now it's been passed on to Shimamura Yoko, who the first time I heard her work, I mean, she's done quite a lot, as you would expect from all these composers, but the first time I heard her work was in Kingdom Hearts 1, and she had the job of, like, blending the Square Enix Final Fantasy-ish kind of music with the Disney theme kind of music. And so originally I thought, like, she was one of the talents from Disney and they, like, just brought her over into the project. But, you know, she did a really good job with that. I can't say that I like it as much as the Final Fantasy music, but there were a few tracks in the soundtrack that really stood out. And so she's now moved on to doing the Final Fantasy soundtrack. She is the composer for Final Fantasy 15, which is also one of the soundtracks that I sometimes play in the background when I'm playing Honkai Impact. But mainly just the battle theme, so if you want a compilation, you can go to YouTube and search for them. If it's just mainly battle themes, I do like the battle themes from Kingdom Hearts as well. There's also this other composer that I really like listening to, and he is Hiroyuki Sawano. He did the soundtracks for Kotetsujo no Kabaneri, which is Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress. I think that's the English name. He also did it for Shingeki no Kyojin, which is Attack on Titan. And he has done a lot of work for anime and with a lot of different Japanese artists. He brings out, like, the best in the vocals of the artists that he's working with. And, you know, the work is just amazing. But it's like a really epic feel. When you're playing Honkai with that as the background music, it's like, wow, it's such an epic fight. But sometimes you're just struggling with the Momo Arena and you're re-rolling your score over and over again. But, you know, the music actually really helps. And yeah, but back to Honkai, I think they've been doing a really good job as well, releasing new tracks with every update. Not a lot of mobile games do that. Some mobile games, they just stick to the same tracks for like the next 5 years, which, you know, or they just remix some of their tracks, you know, just do a slight rearrangement, and it doesn't sound all that different anyway. So that could be really lazy. So I like what they're doing with Honkai, though Q Singularis' background music isn't really ideal in terms of battle, but they're still doing a really good job, and they're also releasing like new songs with each major release, like with the Hero of the Void, with the Hero of Reason, and so, you know, as far as the game goes, they are really great. Also, you can find the songs, I think probably the entire soundtrack of Honkai Impact on Spotify. And so you can head over there and listen to them if you like to. If you haven't got enough of it in the game already, that's where you can find it. And I'm pretty sure we can buy the original soundtracks, but I haven't really tried to yet. So maybe I will. But for now, when you hear the background music in my videos, like how I have control of the background music that plays, some people got confused when I played like the summer theme from last year. On some of the videos, like on the bridge, it's playing, and you're like, how did you change the soundtrack on the bridge? Well, it's not in-game, it's actually just for the video. And so I edit the sound, I record without any background music, and then I put whatever background music I want on it, and that's why in the video it comes out that way. And these background music tracks, they're all recorded from the game. So when a new update comes out, I like to play all the new stages with the background music on. If any of them sound really good, I'll go back in and switch everything off, like character voice, sound effects and everything, and just leave background music on. And then I'll record it, and sometimes I'll just have to use the Valkyrie to run around, which is really funny if you like look at the recording. And you can't do an ultimate evasion, because when you do an ultimate evasion, and this is like a really fun fact, when you do an ultimate evasion, the background music actually lowers its volume for a split second, and then it comes back up. So if you do that while you're recording the background music, of course there are other sources, but I just like to keep it original. So if you do that while you're recording the background music, there will be like, it sounds like there's distortions, but actually it's just ultimate evasions going on. So it's a little hard sometimes. I do have to work for my background music. Of course you can find copies on YouTube sometimes, but I try to like keep everything about the game in game, and that's why you also don't hear me like playing different soundtracks when I'm doing my videos. It also has to do with like original content. Like on YouTube, if I were to play music that is not licensed to me, like I said, I like music from Final Fantasy or Nier Automata or like from Hiroyuki Sawano, but I don't have the rights to use them. And not just music, even like gameplay. If someone else did gameplay and I did not ask for permission, I just like stole that footage off and just put it on my channel, the original creator can claim ad revenue. So if I have ad revenue, they can claim a portion of it or they can claim all of it. So the video is working for them instead of me, even though it's on my channel. They can also choose to, I don't know, if someone reports it or if they find out by themselves, usually the algorithm will pick it up and it'll inform the original creator. And so then they will have a few choices. So one of them is to get a share of the ad revenue or get the ad revenue entirely. Another is YouTube will just step in and say, you know, they'll demonetize the person who's ripped off all of the content that's not originally their own. But don't worry, it's not the entire channel, it's just that one video. So if you do one video and it gets demonetized, your next video is not demonetized if you did not have any copyright infringement. And so the last step, not really last step, but the last option is that the video can be taken down entirely. Most of the time that has to be at the request of the original creator. And I don't think YouTube will just take videos down unless they're extremely offensive. But you know, there's a lot of other factors that contribute to stuff like that. I guess the idea of taking a video down is because it's kind of like stealing views. Like, I guess it's more for if someone released a video and another person just downloaded that video and uploaded the entire same thing on their own channel and they're getting the views, but they played no part in creating the video at all. And that I can see how that will affect the original creator, and I think in those situations, the videos that are getting the copyright infringement will usually be taken down. So it's really interesting to know all these. It's not like I make a lot of money out of YouTube or anything like that, but I try to be respectful. I guess that's the main point of me doing all this. I try not to do like view grabs, like, oh, someone else did gameplay and then I upload it on my channel. And I'm even okay with people having the impression that I was the one doing that gameplay just because I want to get views. I think that is extremely disrespectful to the original person who did the work. And so that was the first thing that I was really careful of when I started like uploading videos more frequently. But other than that, you know, it's just stick to the content that the game provides because you're promoting for them, so they pretty much be okay with you using their content. And so it's really a win-win situation. I did use Nightglow, like a bit of Nightglow in my Vermilion Night expansion supply video. And usually what you do when you post music like that is you have the in-game sounds, the sound effects, or you have voiceovers so that the music is actually playing in the background, but the algorithm wouldn't pick it up because it's like how, you know, you have some of those apps that can recognize songs, and sometimes you play the song for it and it can't tell you what song it is because there's like other factors that's affecting it, and so the algorithm can't pick it up. So in YouTube, that's usually the smart way to use music. But even though those don't get picked up by the algorithm, they can sometimes be reported. Like if someone really wants to get you, they can report it, and the original creator can still be notified, and then action will be taken. They can also choose to not do anything, by the way. And so that's what happened. So like I was saying, I used Nightglow in the expansion supply, and I didn't really mask the sound over. I think it was playing too loud in comparison to the background sounds, and so it got copyright claimed by the algorithm. I think it's Muse Entertainment, that's the label that Tanya, who is the singer of Nightglow, is signed with, I think. But a few days later, I went in and the copyright claim was removed. So that would probably mean that they were notified and they chose not to do anything about it. And so I was kind of allowed to use that track. And I am really grateful for that because, you know, if you get too many demonetization strikes, your channel will be taken down for review. Alright, so back to Q Singularis. Also, if you guys have like a soundtrack that you like to play in the background, please share it with us in the comment section down below. I would like to be open to like new soundtracks. I really love all these kind of music, like the ones I mentioned, and so if you guys have any good recommendations, please add them in the comments down below. But for now, we are now at the final boss of Q Singularis of this round. 20th floor. I am of course not using the optimal team. It is with a fire evadian, so it is of course recommended that we use fire teams, and I will switch to the optimal team later, but for now I'm just gonna do a short run through with the Heroes of the Void and my not so good bossing team, just to see, like, just to get a rough gauge of how much we can get if we were to push with the Heroes of the Void. Now, if you do have, and I know most people don't have this because even I don't have it, but if you do have a triple S Heroes of the Void, I hear that it is actually comparable to some of the fire teams. You could get about like 850 for your end score, which right now I'm like at 790. So that is really fast. But you know, there are a lot of requirements for a team like that, and even I probably wouldn't meet those requirements. I would maybe meet some of them, but of course, the biggest one, which is the triple S Heroes of the Void, I will not be able to meet. So the team that is currently optimal for this fight would be Vermilion Knight as the leader, and also as a carrier for Blood Dance, so she will be an elemental support. Then with Phoenix, who will also be holding elemental support Stigma, and Flame Sakitama. But like I mentioned earlier, my Flame Sakitama is not at triple S, she is still at double S, so her attack is not gonna be as strong as it should be against this boss, and so I'm not gonna do really well. But if I get something that's like, I don't know, 750 or 800, I'd be happy with that. I wouldn't go up to Myriad, but at least I tried. And so I'm gonna quit this stage so that my score does not get locked in. And wow, look at the dramatic background of this defeat screen. Alright, so we'll be right back. Alright, I locked the score after I quit the stage, so do beware of that. So the idea of using this team, and it has 3 Newton Bees because of how they can stack up, is to actually just support Flame Sakitama in breaking one of the arms. Just one, because breaking 2 will be a little too time consuming. If you have overwhelmingly high attack stats, you don't even have to break the arm, you just have to charge your Zanshin up to max, and then mark Asaka with Florid Sakura's active skill, and then switch out to Phoenix, mark the boss with, you know, your elemental support sticks, switch Vermilion Knight in to use Blood Dance, and also mark with her elemental support sticks, and then switch Flame Sakitama in, and use the Evadian with her ultimate and Elf to finish the boss off. That's if you have enough attack stats. I don't think I have enough, so mine is probably not gonna finish it off, but if you don't worry, because you'll be in burst mode and you can use the Zanshin, you know, without the combo follow-up. Okay, mistakes were made. I didn't use the weapon active skill, but I can still use it when I switch in. I'm just gonna lose quite a bit of time, and we'll just see the damage I can deal from here. Not really great. Let's see if I can finish it off. So it's unfortunate that he cast the lightning. I think I'm gonna get killed by that, because, you know, I'm not in a really good position. It's quite a waste though, I could have done better, but okay. Okay, so like all bosses, I had to do a few attempts, and after failing a copious amount of times, I finally had a good run. But my run wasn't like great as compared to the actual high standards for this run. You should be getting around 850 to like 880 on the high side. I only got like 747 or something like that. But, you know, my Flame Sakitama is still at double S, so that's as much as I could do. Still, my first run was actually closer to 800, so even with double S, you could probably get like 800, maybe 820 or 30, but that wouldn't be enough to promote anyway. So, you know, anything from 700 to 750 would probably put you in a safe zone of retention in Red Lotus, and that's pretty much what I went for. So yeah, a lot of mistakes were made in this run. Usually, if Asaka does a certain skill, like the one that stuns on every hit, I will reset the round. But, you know, like I said, I was just going for a score that I could be happy with, so I was okay with that. But a lot of mistakes were made in this round. Still, it could get me 750, so you guys could do a lot better than I did. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed all the off-topic topics that we had for Q Singularis. I did have a good time doing Q Singularis. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any recommendations for background music that you love in games that you do play when you're playing Honkai, please share it with everyone in the comment section. Also, if you do have any questions on Honkai, you can ask them in the comment section as well. Either myself or someone else will answer it. So remember, if you gacha, do it responsibly. Thank you for watching, and this has been MG.